he thought he should pay cash. So I think we have to take a look at where the money's sitting. What is it growing or is it stagnating? And what rate is it growing at is a good place to start, because 20% down might be actually the best choice, or it might be, or 10% down might be a better choice, just depending upon someone's personal situation.
This is Dave Steinberg here with the Mortgages Made Easy podcast, and back with my buddy Jeff Thomas of Primary Residential out of Northern Virginia. Jeff, what does a financial advisor say to a client who says, I want to buy a property, I'm thinking of buying it all cash?
Well, I would think the advisor would go, why do you want to pay all cash initially? It may be the best decision they make, but I think most financial advisors will want to find out what's that motivation behind the need or the want to have such a large down payment. And once they go through that part, they should have a better idea of what's actually best. What have you found?
Yeah, I think that there is a culture of being debt-free.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of people in this country who believe that being debt-free is the optimal strategy. And for some it is. And for some people, it's a stage of life question. Maybe at 30, there's not a good reason to be debt-free, but at 70, there is a good reason.
Right.
But a lot of it is based on people not doing the analysis. And we have people who will call us up and say, I don't like this 7% interest rate, I'm going to pay cash. And the problem with that is that if you buy a home for cash, and let's say a year from now you need the money, and you take out, let's say you're buying a $500,000 home and you decide to buy it for cash. Now it's a year down the road and you want to refinance. The money that you take out as a refinance is no longer tax deductible. So the interest you pay on a cash out refinance, generally speaking, I'm not giving anyone tax deductible, but
Right.
Generally speaking, that money is not tax deductible. So you have to be real careful when you make the decision up front, because you're going to forego that deductibility for the rest of the time you own the house.
Right. Exactly. I literally had this very conversation with somebody on Sunday. And it was a large house. And he's like, why should I pay cash? I want to pay cash, but why should I or shouldn't I? And his thing, and my first question to him was, what are you making on the returns on the money that you're going to pull out? And I can't remember. It was like 8 or something. And I was like, well, if you're going to get more there, take less out and let that to keep growing. That was, just off the cuff math in my head. That would probably be a better decision long-term for him and his family, because he thought he should pay cash. So I think we have to take a look at where the money's sitting. What is it growing or is it stagnating? And what rate is it growing at is a good place to start, because 20% down might be actually the best choice, or it might be, or 10% down might be a better choice, just depending upon someone's personal situation.
And the other part of that is that, one of the things that I like to tell people is that the rate of return, the appreciation of the house will be the same regardless of whether you put down 10% or 100%. A year from now, the house will have the same value. So by paying more cash, you're not adjusting the return on that house. you're actually getting a worse return on investment, because let's say you buy a house today for $500,000. A year from now, it's worth $600,000. If you put down $100,000 now, you're getting 100% return in that first year, because you're getting the 100% appreciation. But
Right.
if you put down $500,000, you're still getting a very nice return. On a real basis, it's the same, but on a percentage basis, it's smaller.
Right.
And you're tying your money up, and that's something that has to be understood.
It's the tying up the money, and because there is a cost to go get that money out of your bank, and there's a cost to pulling that money out of the market or wherever it is. So it's all of those costs that the initial person, that, you know, the home buyer, that they fail to look at. They just want to look at that monthly payment and have it to be zero, versus trying to offset it with other investments. That's what I've found over the years.
Yeah. You know, the other thing is that, though you can always put an equity line on, there are strategies that we could discuss, but having the money accessible, even if your returns are equivalent on the money that you're putting into the house versus the money you have invested, but having the money accessible is huge, because once you put it into the house, it may be harder to get it out.
It's hard. Yeah, cash is king. I think we both went through 2007 to 10, right? And people that had cash were affected, but they definitely weren't as affected as those that didn't have cash. So I think having that cash availability, however we want to define that, is key to someone's particular situation.
What other things should people consider before they put in a very large down payment?
That's a good question. I think, does the down payment affect the rate? Do they need a large down payment? If we're talking about, do they need that down payment to actually purchase the house? Is it going to affect their qualification? If it does, then it's a moot point where they have to do it. And that's a whole different conversation. Those are two off the top of my head. What can you add to that list?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It's, you know, sometimes you need to do this. You know, we've had conversations with people who felt that they need to buy for cash today because they want to close very quickly.
Right.
And there's a belief going back 20 years, when it used to take 60 days from when you applied for a mortgage till you closed, that is no longer true. And so quite often today, if we have a complete application package, we could have that loan closed 2 or 3 weeks from now. And so the thought process that says, I need to pay cash because I don't have the time, that may not be true.
Correct. Well, essentially all offers are cash, because the seller's getting cash they're getting their cash at closing. So from the buyer side or the seller side, it is cash. I think the fallacy of paying an all cash for a seller, so to speak, is it's a quicker transaction and a safer transaction. But as you it's not necessarily either of those, because closing today is really much quicker than it was 20, 25 years ago. A lot quicker and easier.
This has been great. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Thanks, Dave.
Look forward to continuing our conversation.
Definitely.